against koget. Here we go. Alright, and at the bottom right position as the red Terran, we will have Koget. And at the top left as the white Zerg will be NeMu.
Okay. So after the first game, I'm pretty sure that Koget is going to remember that to keep scouting with those SCVs. And
Yeah.
it was a little bit unfortunate that NeMu actually let that SCV out. But,
Yes.
well,
I'm not actually sure how that got out. I guess he just got lucky on the timing and left right before the two scouting Zerglings got in there.
yeah.
Which is really nice. But having said that, that SCV came out after the first attack was already stopped, and I actually didn't notice whether he built the wall after or before seeing the speed with his SCV. But I think Koget, it was after. Okay, so he definitely did it reactionarily. Okay,
Yeah.
well, unlucky for NeMu. But yeah, let's see what happens here. There's going to be a wall actually at the natural, so pretty much zero chance of a big Ling attack then. Assuming this, can you make a... Yeah, it looks like you can make a tight wall with 2 depots and a barracks here. And unlike in that game we saw with Vladi, where his Marines were spawning on the outside, in this position the Marines will spawn on the inside of the wall, so that'll be fine.
Well, you know, I have to say though that NeMu went for something that was really aggressive in the first game, and obviously it would be really, really risky to try something like that again with those extra Zerglings.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested because his muted control wasn't actually that bad until the last moment when he tried to fight that army, maybe because he was trying to get some lurkers at the same time or something similar. But he had decent muted control, so if it goes to a more standard game, I think he does have a fighting chance against Koget. It's not going to be easy, but...
Yeah. I'm interested to see his longer game. I saw some comments in chat saying like he's a 2v2 player, so he tends to do those early Zergling shenanigans more than other players, I suppose. So maybe his late game it won't be as strong as Koget's, and that's why he wants to do something like that.
I mean, definitely I think that because NeMu did play Protoss against Zerg, I believe it was, so it kind of made... Oh, actually blocking the depot
Nice.
to the wall. Wait,
That's such a pain.
Yeah, and it actually is gonna, I think, supply block Koget for a few seconds there, so...
Yeah, it's much harder for Zerg to block the other races though, because when a Zerg builds something, the drone sort of has to, you know, settle into place and do a little spin and then turn into the building. Whereas Protoss and Terran, they just sort of build instantly, pretty much. So it's a bit tricky.
Oh, and gas. Okay, so again, might be for mag, might be for. I'm guessing when you expand, you usually don't go that fast mag because you're open a little bit to some crazy things, but probably for that +1, we'll see if that's what Koget wants to go for.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen like a wall with expansion into like Factory and Valkyries or something. I think someone in the prelims played that, but it's a bit strange. It's definitely more common for this gas to just be the +1. I agree. Let me just see the third hatchery as normal.
And the SCV from Koget is still, you know, in the main, looking around, so getting some information. Oh, close to dying, but the layer is not even started yet. It's gonna be pretty soon, though. Let's see if he makes it in the main or in the natural.
SCV. Oh man, the drone's actually blocking the Zergling, so SCV might actually get away here.
Oh, I like the fact that he builds it in the natural as the SCV is leaving. I don't know if the SCV actually saw the timing or if it just saw the layer already morphing.
Yeah.
Another SCV.
Pretty common to try and hide that timing that way. I mean, given that it's a 3-hatch build that was scouted, I'm pretty sure Koget knows roughly the timing anyway.
Yeah.
So he won't be too shocked by that, but it's always nice, obviously, when you see that.
Whoa.
And guess what? There is a factory in the base.
And look, another SCV gets in because it was actually like mineral walking.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have to say that I really like this kind of factory style. I'm not sure if it's better or worse. It's a different thing. But 3 factories.
That's crazy. Oh man, is he actually going just straight mech, no bio? No, like, okay, so going for, you know, expand into factory is unusual. You would see that, I don't know, maybe 10% of the games, but that is almost always going into like the starport next. Going for these mass factories is something I have not seen in a very, very long time. Typically, mech is considered, well, okay, I shouldn't say is considered, but it's less optimal than a bio build, which is why, you know, like you would never see Korean players do this unless they're doing some kind of crazy cheese. But it is much mechanically easier to pull off. So, you know, at lower levels, like, you know, if you're like a C player on IC Cup, going mech TBZ, that's perfectly fine. You typically, you know, you can pull it off at least a lot better than you might be able to do with Medic Marine control. It's a lot more forgiving.
I mean, the only thing that I'm not sure how that works in economical way, because when you're producing factory units, you're burning your gas very early on. So it's a little bit more tricky maybe to then, I don't know, get all the upgrades unless you get the 3rd relatively soon. We see that actually the eBay is also being built. I'm assuming that's because scans are going to be much later.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the mech army is so immobile that while you're trying to slowly crawl across the map, if the Zerg by Mutas, he basically has, you know, you still need the turrets at home to defend your SEV lines. Like, you don't just want to leave half your army at home to defend. The mech army, it's even more important than the bio for the army to stay together. And, you know, again, it's just much less mobile, so you have to be a little bit more careful, invest in some static defenses, because Zerg's counterattacking against mech is pretty popular, pretty common.
And so far we only see Goliaths. I'm assuming that sooner or later you do need some tanks. But when you're building few tanks, I'm assuming it's relatively difficult because they can get sniped. And while Goliaths are pretty good once upgraded, even against Hydras, Hydraling, I think, can deal relatively well against this kind of composition so far. So,
yeah, it's... I mean, Goliaths aren't the most efficient against ground. They're obviously intended to be anti-air, but their benefits, really, compared to Medic Marine, for example, are they have longer range and obviously a lot more HP. They're very, very tanky. So, like, you know, Lurkers will just 2-shot Marines, but Goliaths can actually take quite a few shots to kill, which is quite nice. That's what I meant by, you know, it's a lot more forgiving than Medic Marine. You don't just instantly lose the game if you make a micro mistake.
The only thing, though, you don't have medics for them, so they're not as durable in small kind of constant engagements.
Yeah. One thing nice about Goliaths, though, is you can ward away this Muta Harass without much difficulty because the Goliath has such insane range, and you actually get this nice little floating barracks. This is one bonus that might be overlooked, is that you get the floating barracks to spot up above the cliff. If you're going for bio, there's actually no building that you would normally lift early on. Like the eBay you want for upgrades, and obviously the barracks, all the other buildings you're using, right? But when you go mech, the barracks you're actually not using, so you can use that for vision. It's very nice.
All those meters are actually committing a little bit too much, I think.
Yeah. There's not much you can actually do against the Goliaths. What's interesting to me is that Koget is actually splitting his army. He's left half his army to defend, and he's sending half out. I think that's a mistake. The Mutas will be able to pick off these Goliaths in the middle of the map if they don't get support.
Oh, and so far he's not taking anything down yet. Ooh.
This is really good Goliath control by Koget. I'm actually really impressed by this.
Oh, this is going to be bad. NeMu is losing every single Muta right now.
Yeah, NeMu has I mean, what I think he's showing is that he has no idea what to do against this. That was not only was that poor Muta control, but it just showed him being like, you know, I don't even know what to do. I'm just gonna randomly move my Mutas around. Like, okay, that's not gonna work.
I mean, Sankas are good against Goliaths, but not when there's only one.
Yeah, he's defending with drones now. NeMu is desperate. He did not anticipate his attack coming at all. Oh my god, he's just getting murdered here in the map. There's Zerglings in the back, but Lings aren't even that good against Goliaths. Goliaths are just so tanky. Look at that, he couldn't even kill one. They do have the 1 base armor. which is actually surprisingly helpful. Oh god, GG, and good luck. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that he went for Zergling and continued Mutas. I was expecting, Hydras because they usually deal a little bit better. If you have Hydras and Mutas against Goliaths,
Yeah.
I think they work a lot better than just Slings.
Yeah, definitely. The problem obviously is that Hydra Muta is quite expensive
Yeah.
compared to Mutaling, so you can't afford that necessarily at that point. I think the biggest mistake there from NeMu was rushing for Hive in the same way you would against Bio.
Yeah.
The Hive did nothing for him in that game, and against Bio, it's not as important to rush for Defilers. With a strong mid-game army, as you were saying, if you invest in the Hydra Muta, you can stay on Hydra Muta for a very long time against mech, and it's fine. You don't like the Defiler. Obviously, it's great. It's amazing. Swarms, plagues, fantastic against mech, but it's not a necessity like it is against Bio.
Yeah. Well, it was relatively. I mean, you said it. I think perfectly. It seemed like NeMu didn't really know how to answer to that. So
yeah. I mean, to be completely fair, like I was very surprised to see the build as well. So I would imagine NeMu would be even more shocked. Like reacting to something like that, that's completely unexpected in the middle of an important game, is very difficult.
Yeah, I think wasn't Android I think Android actually took down Jadon with something very similar. So
Yeah. It's just these random timings where, I'm sure if NeMu goes back and he looks at the replay, he'd be like, oh, I can just do this.
yeah,
If I was to play this game again, this is what I would do and it'd be fine. So there's the problem is that you just haven't seen something like this in so long that you're just like, whoa, what's going on?
well,
So, or on that note, we will be going on to the next series once I download it. And it will be a PvP. It'll be Desakwe versus Vanatir. I'm pretty sure this is PvP.
I think so too. Yeah.
Nice. Wow, we have so many Protoss